Hey, producer Paul here, and this is part 2 of the talk that Doug gave at a recent mastermind. For more information, check out wealthygymowners.com and make sure to go back if you haven't and listen to last week's part 1 of this presentation, and stay tuned for parts 3 and 4 on the following 2 weeks. Thanks.
So let's talk about phase 1. Just to paint the picture of what phase 1 is. Phase 1 is 0 to 50 clients. You're doing $0 to $15,000 a month in revenue. And I believe that you should not be worrying about staff yet. You may have like a part-time random, but staffing is not your focus at this phase, right? Client growth is your focus. 0 to 50 clients, less than 15K a month. Can I get a raise of the hand if you're in that phase? Cool. All right. So by the way, this is like, I'm going to make this very interactive at each phase. We're going to pause at the end. Once I share all the things on the phase, we're going to pause. And one of you that just raised your hand is going to become my guinea pig, and we're going to break it down to how to get that to phase 2. Okay. So phase 1 is 0 to 50. I believe a mistake that's made here is there's two core mistakes: marketing, and we staff too early. We staff too early because we overschedule, i.e. we have multiple models and we're trying to run this crazy schedule. So at 0 to 50, you're doing all the work yourself. You're 0 to 15K of revenue, and we can't worry about staffing. In hindsight, if I look at the gyms that grow the fastest out of this phase, they suck it up and do all the training themselves. And I know that's like counterintuitive to like your ideal business, and maybe some of you don't want to train less, etc. But some of this is like, suck it up, buttercup, you're a business owner, and we're going to work our tail off to get to 15K. Once you're at 15K, now we can start dishing out some payroll towards staff. But mistakes I see at this phase is we're at, like, to use numbers, like a 10 or 12K revenue, and we have 3 part-timers. And it's because we have 2 different models and we're running 15 sessions a day. Like, even just saying that feels overwhelming and complicated. So how I would simplify that: at that range, at 50 clients a day, you really only need like 5 sessions a day on your schedule. Maybe it's like, we're at a new location, not to say that you should do this. I don't know if it's going to work yet. At a stage in life, I can test things. We're going to do mornings only, 5 sessions, and then on the half hour, stack them. So at our peak, we'll be running 10 sessions, but we're only opening in the mornings. And we only need 1 coach, 5 sessions. So from an ease of scheduling in the beginning at this phase, like, I'm sure all of you have coached 5 sessions in a day, right? Yes, it's tiring, and yes, it's a lot, but that's, in my opinion, what's required to get past this phase. Is I would go, whether it's 3 in the morning and 2 at night, or all 5 in the morning, or some variation of, you are a solopreneur at this stage, and you should do all of the training to grow out of this stage. Because what I believe a limiting factor at this stage is, whether you think about it as a 50 client phase or a 15K a month in revenue phase, is you're focused on piecemealing all these single one-off sessions, all these single one-off tasks to other people, which I do understand from a delegating standpoint. But if we go back to what I talked about in the beginning, some of this is just because your business is too complicated for the size. And if we can simplify the model, simplify the schedule to only have, again, 50 people, like, here's how I do my math: 50 people, an average of 2.5 times a week is what the average training gym client attends. So do your math. You take your 50 people, you multiply it times 2.5. That's how many visits you're going to get in a week. Divide that by even 60 to 80% of, you're going to have your 10 or 20 that don't show, right? You're going to have your people that will go on hold, things like that. You don't need a ton of sessions on the schedule. So at this stage, simplify your schedule, 5, maybe 6. Now, I know we're entrepreneurs and we don't count hours, but let's just count hours for sake of example. That still leaves you 2 to 3 hours a day to work on the business. So at this stage, when I hear like, I don't have time to work on the business, or I need to work on the business more, I'm like, 2 to 3 hours to work on your business at this stage is substantial. Like, every day. Like you don't need, I actually have it linked here, and a good segue. Fred did a training, when was that hour a day marketing thing you did? Was it last month? Yeah. So I linked it in my doc. It's in IBA, I'm sure. I think everybody in that phase should just focus on the 1 hour a day marketing plan that he put together. That's it. Like an hour a day of marketing. So the whole like work on my business, I think personally is like, sorry for hurting your feelings a little bit. I think it's a bunch of like BS. I think it's, you only need an hour. Like we can grow this business in an hour a day of focused, actual growth. So if you pull that up, and I will here just to cite it specifically, it's making sure that we're actually doing things that are growing your business and not just the busy work of, you know, making sure we're checking boxes but not actually growing. So did your email go out? Yes or no? Like to me, this is like standard non-negotiables at this stage. Email your list. If you're not getting replies, change your email. I stress this at Project 500. I love that we give you the done for yous. I really do. I think it's a great time saver. I think ChatGPT is a great time saver. But here's the thing, y'all. Your business is not measured on checking the box that it went out. It's measured on the outcome that produces. So I'm totally cool that you take a template, maybe modify it and send it out. And that's good. Like that's certainly step one. If it doesn't go out, nobody's going to see it. But on the flip side, if nobody's responding to your email, I personally would want to pause and say, why? Not just keep sending more emails. Because usually it is the quality of your email, the size of your list, are you texting as well as emailing? Like a big part of this initial phase to get out of in marketing is you are executing the tactics, which again is good. Like I certainly think that is step one. But in order to get past this, you have to get to step two, which is whether you use coaches as resources or yourself. Like if we would have a rule where a super signature with my team, that if we went a week without a reply on our super signature, that super signature got canned and we would build a new one. And I know for a fact that many people in our group take our super signatures and run them for the whole month. And then they say, why didn't I get replies? So it's the idea that if something's not working, it's like entrepreneurship is problem solving. That is what you've signed up for. It is problem solving. So the problem to be solved is in this 1 hour a day marketing plan. I think it's great strategies that Fred outlined. I think it's the only thing you need to follow in this initial phase if you're not marketing. You don't need my comprehensive marketing plan. Like I put together every month for our Project 500 boardroom, I put together a marketing plan that has no shortage of 10 different strategies on there. You do not need that if you're in this phase. You need to just do basic things like texting your contact list, your contact database, emailing on a regular basis, reactivation texts, referral requests from clients, right? All of that is strategies that don't take a lot of time, but they have to be done every day. Like, I want to be asking for referrals every day. I want to be sending out reactivation texts every day. So if we break down a lot of what's on here, it's, again, like personally how I would do this, and Pat talked about owner operating system. I personally would have two, but start with one of just like, here's my 1 hour a day checklist. And he put that in the doc at the bottom. Like, here's what I need to do every day. And then personally, I would have a part two, which is what was the outcome? Like, what's my scoreboard? Did I get replies? Did it work? And then at the end of the week, tweak it if I need to. So 1 hour a day of working, when people say work in the business, at this stage, I don't think it's more than an hour a day. I really don't. And so if it's more than that, I would want to troubleshoot as to why. And it's usually because you're trying to run too complicated of a business, going back to the beginning, okay? So again, I'll post my doc. I don't like posting it till the end, but I'll post it in the group. And then in that, if you have not seen it, is the 1 hour a day marketing plan that Fred put together. And it has like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, a whole checklist of what to do. Just remember, like check the box first, and then let's make sure it's working, right? We had a Project 500 guy, he was sending engagement emails out to his list, and he wasn't getting replies. And so he came to me and said, hey, Doug, I sent out these engagement emails, nobody replied. And all I did was, the question at the end was something along the lines of, like, do you want me to hold a spot, or are you in, or something like that, right? All I did was change that last sentence to say, do you want more details, or reply if you want details. Because the ask of wanting details is less committal at that stage than asking if they want to sign up. So now I can have the reply. Now his replies went up, and then, we can take the conversation from there, right? So all it takes sometimes to get something to work versus not work, whether it be text, emails, etc., is little tweaks like that in your messaging. So phase one, from a marketing perspective, it's the 1 hour a day marketing. Follow that. Simplify your schedule so you're only coaching 5 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and then spend an hour, maybe 2, marketing. Then the last piece of this is, for this phase, is operational systems that you should build out at this stage. Operational systems that you should have built out at this stage. So the complexity of this business is it's not complex, it's pretty simple. So I would say don't get too focused on like having to have a system for everything. I have plenty of conversations nowadays around people that are in the 10 to 15K range that are like, I need more systems. And I say, that's later. Let's focus on that later. Because if you don't have these 5, I don't really need you to focus on like a rewards and recognition system. Although that's great, and we'll get there for your clients, and I want them to be recognized. What's important is like the foundational systems. So there are 5 foundational systems that you need to have in phase 1. And again, if you're not in this phase and you're already ahead in phase 2 from size-wise and you don't have, these are like holding you back, right? And number 1 is what you do for lead tracking and follow-up. So that's 1 combined. I combine those 2 into 1. Lead tracking and follow-up. So lead tracking is making sure you know the status of every single lead that comes in. I consider a lead anybody that you have phone and email and of course their name. And then follow-up. So lead tracking's usually pretty easy. You can use automatic members or you can use a Google Sheet. And it's just simply the names and their contact info. That's the tracking part. You can do it in automatic members with the pipeline. Same thing. That, in my opinion, is the easy part. The work is in the follow-up. So we talk about generating more leads a lot in this industry, but I believe one of my goals is to shift the conversation to more appointments, not more leads. Because if I handed you 100 leads today and none of them booked an appointment with you, you would be very unhappy. Because you just spent a ton of time following up and got nothing out of it. So focus on the appointments. That's why Keith brought it up earlier that like for most training gyms, 2 or 3 appointments a week is all you need at this phase. Like 2 or 3 people times 4 weeks. You're meeting with 8 or 10 people. You're going to sign up 8 of them, 7 of them, and you're only going to lose 3 or 4. So every month you're net positive. That's all you need. That's all you need. But that means we need to have a follow-up sequence built out. Now, there are 2 parts of follow-up, and I think if you're missing one of them, you are missing 50% of conversions. So one is your automated follow-up. The second one is your manual follow-up. So automated follow-up, if you don't already, you have my follow-up framework, and it's 14-ish days of automated follow-up. Your follow-up framework, in my opinion, should be built around getting a reply and getting to book an appointment. That is it. Many of the mistakes we made early on with follow-up, looking back at it, was we were not focused on what the outcome we were trying to get from these leads. The goal of a lead in a brick and mortar training gym is to get them to book an appointment, which we'll talk about next in our next operational system. That's the goal, is to book an appointment. So every piece of follow-up we send is asking them to book an appointment. Maybe there's some social proof and then an ask, but every single message is designed to book the appointment. I hate to like hurt your trainer feelings, but they do not care about your programming. They don't care about your protein. They don't care about any of the training stuff. They just don't. I don't believe that should be part of your onboarding. I believe your your follow-up should be particularly about booking the appointment. So follow-up, that's the automated side. You can build that out once. You can take mine and please edit it a little bit because like you probably don't have an admin named McKenna. So if you just copy and paste that, you will all of a sudden have a McKenna. And so change that, and then that can be automated once. You can put it into automatic members and it's done. Every new lead will get it. However, anecdotally, you are missing out on 50% of people if that's all you do. Because there is manual intervention, whether you like it or not, and this is part of the like hour a day is follow-up. Follow-up is not a time-consuming thing, but it is a repetitive thing, meaning it needs to happen every day. Every day there are leads in your business that need followed up with, every day. And so it's not something that you can like batch on a Friday. It's not something that it needs to just be part of, like we don't have to do it anymore with our admin, but we used to literally block from 8 to 9 every morning, lead follow-up on her calendar. That's all she did, lead follow-up. Now she had an hour, maybe you only have 20 minutes, but she also had 60 leads, 80 leads a month to follow up with. And at this phase, we might have 20, 30, right? So automated follow-up is responding to those that replied from the manual text, manual email, most importantly, manual call. And I believe he's our largest client in our coaching program. Our largest client in our coaching program this year will do 1.7 million. And when I first started working with him, he was not calling his leads. Now keep in mind, this business generates, like I said, almost $2 million top line. They have a lot of operational inefficiencies, but for sake of example, they have a boatload of leads every month to follow up with. They have 2 people that do it, and they weren't calling. They were just automated and text, email. If they reply, great. All of a sudden, I said, you need to interject phone calls. His book rate almost doubled. I think it was like 40-something% increase from a phone call. Now, the counter I always get to that is they don't answer the phone. And I say, yes, I know. However, you need to take advantage of being local and brick and mortar. And by leaving a voicemail, even if I read the transcription, I know that it is a legit brand. We're running grand opening ads right now for our new location, new town, never been to it, don't live there. I know about the town, but nobody knows who we are. There's all kinds of comments about like, who are you, where is this place, etc. Right? That happens every day in your business. So if all you're doing is sending out automated text and automated emails, you are getting a crap load of thanks, but I don't know who you are, even though they opted in for it, right? Who is this? What is this number? It's a new number, right? The phone call, the power of the phone call is the voicemail. It legitimizes you. It puts brand behind you. It puts tone in the voicemail if they listen to it. And many of the training gyms work with a population that is 45 to 50 plus, which as of today, this may change, but as of today, they do still check voicemails. We're not dealing with 20-year-olds. We're dealing with people who, yes, they're more tech savvy and they may prefer to communicate on text, but they will check their voicemail. And it accelerates, that's all it does is accelerate response. I'm not asking you to even call me back. My voicemail will say, thanks for your interest. I'm going to send you a text or email. Go ahead and reply to whichever one works best for you. But I'm telling you, if you're not doing phone calls, you are missing out on a ton of leads going to appointment. So lead tracking and follow-up. Then we go into sales process. Sales process is what you do with every new client. What you do with every new client. We want to have one way that we work with every new client. Meaning, is it a success session? Is it a discovery call? Is it a sports performance folks like to call them game planning sessions? I don't care what you call it, but you need to have a singular way. So I've gone from all this marketing, everything's driving to one from here on out. So a lot of us think of funnel as like this narrow. I, in my brain, think about it as very wide at the top, and then as soon as they opt in, boom, right down to one lane, all the way through. Because as soon as they opt in, now I can take leadership and I can say, here's what's next, here's our process, here's what day one looks like, here's your first month program, and I can take the lead, which is what they want. So go wide at the top for your marketing, but then as soon as they opt in, boom, one way. Not here's 3 ways to, like 3 ways to get started is a good super signature, not a good follow-up, because that's overwhelming. So pick, do you want to do a call? Do you want to do an assessment? Whatever you want to do, everybody should be driven to that one thing, okay? Next one is, and I'm spending a lot of time on this phase, like phase 2 and phase 3 in my opinion are, I don't say they're easier, but like they are, like there's a lot of stuff that if we don't have built out in phase 1 are just going to hold us way, way back. Is your onboarding. So your onboarding is what are all the little tiny things you do once somebody signs up. You can put that into a very simple Google Sheet checklist that just says, here are the 5 things, here are the 10 things I do with every new client, and make it an interactive checklist on Google Sheets, or you can build it as a task in automatic members. I don't care, but it needs to be interactive, not just in my head or, you know, here's a Google Doc. Like we are going away from Google Docs for systems because they're not interactive. They're great for copy, they're great for other things, but most of our systems are built on interactive, meaning every time I onboard somebody, I have to manually check the boxes that I did these 5 things. The reason why I like to build that out now is because you become consistent with onboarding, because you are the one doing all this. And consistent onboarding leads to higher client retention, better first client experience, and eventually you can delegate in phase 2. So onboarding is certainly a key thing. And then the last 2 is at this stage, I do want you to have a scoreboard. The way I think of a scoreboard is if I saw you at the Walmart, since we use that as an example earlier, let's say we're going to find crazies at Walmart and I stop you at Walmart and I pull you aside and I say, all right, today's whatever, June 5th. How many leads do you have as of June 5th? The ums, the ahs, the let me checks, that tells me you don't know your numbers right away. Like, here we go. A barbell, 2 45s. 2 plates. 3 plates. 4 plates. Come on, bro. Plates are 45s. My point is, like, you guys know that stuff, but then I'm like, today's June 6th. How many leads do you have? And you're like, I got to check. I don't know. Like, that tells me that you don't know your numbers. And I'm not trying to like make you feel bad. I'm just saying like this is what is required in phase 1. So we need to build this stuff out in phase 1. So I need to know, there's really only 3 core ones you need to know in the beginning. How many leads are you generating? How many appointments are you booking? And how many people of those appointments bought something? That's it. Because you generally don't have a churn issue at this stage, right? Because you're the one doing all the training, experience is good, you know everybody, things are tight, like you don't have a churn issue. But if you don't know on any given day how many leads you have, how many of those leads booked appointments, and how many appointments actually bought something, we don't know our business. We don't. So the entire front end of the business is built off of those 3 core numbers. If we don't have enough leads, we need to increase marketing. If we have plenty of leads, but only 5 of them out of 25 have booked an appointment, then we have a follow-up issue. Let's focus on the follow-up issue. We have a client right now who had booked, I believe it was 19 appointments. So good book rate. I think it was 7 or 8 showed. 19 booked, 8 showed. You don't have to be a genius to say that's pretty damn awful. So what is that? That is, I said yes to an appointment and I didn't show. That is what you send them in the gap in between. Are they getting social proof? Is there a little selfie style video of what to expect on this appointment? My guess is, and I know for a fact in this case, there was nothing, right? Or better yet, try not to fall for the like, we're going to automate your follow-up so that they book an appointment with like a bot or something like that. Sorry if you do that, but I don't like that because they'll get a book like that. And then they'll usually just say yes to the booking to shut that bot up. And then you get a bunch of no-shows. So your follow-up process, the quality of it will dictate your show rate. But that's all you need to know for your scoreboard at this phase. You don't need, like, don't look at the 20 numbers that are on my scoreboard. That's not relevant to you. You focus on those 3. And to be clear, I don't work with online, so if you do online, like lead magnets may be your thing. We have gone away from lead magnets for brick and mortar. We just do pure trial based, just because I don't really care if you want my recipe guide. I want you to train. That's all I care about. So yes, to be clear, for online, for lead magnets, for things that aren't training related, meaning like training in the brick and mortar. What I'm talking about here is I saw your website, I saw an ad about your 28-day, and I want to train with you. Cool. Okay. Who's at this phase or who heard something that they want to troubleshoot for their business? Guinea pig Keith.
It's funny, I was going to say one thing, you talk about the phone calls, and I do try to do better about that, but I have a different problem with that. It's like, I usually get them on the phone.
Yep.
So it's like I went from, I've got an hour to make these calls to, I just spent 20 minutes on the phone with one person. And it's like, it's just interesting. I mean, I don't think there's a way to fix that and be like, I'm going to call at a time when they won't answer. But
well, let me ask you this. Did that phone call lead to an appointment?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So 99% of phone calls, if they do answer, will lead to an appointment. Right? And so so let's do some quick math to make sure you understand the value of what I'm talking about. Not you, Keith, but as a whole. So, Keith, what's your average membership?
$199.
Okay, $200 a month. Make my math easier. $200 a month, okay? How long does the average client stay? Do you know that?
It's usually two plus years.
Okay, so let's just call it 2 years. My little brain in my head says that's $2,400, right? So does a 20-minute phone call, is that worth $2,400? For everybody in this room, everybody in this room, a 20-minute phone call is worth $2,400. A 20-minute phone call is worth $2,400. No doubt, right? Or yeah, $4,800. Thank you. Got my math right. See, I'm not good with math. So I'm a numbers guy. Like I like numbers, but I'm not mathing it. I'm Google Sheeting it. So $5,000. Let's just round it up. Most of you have a $5,000 lifetime value, ish. Some of you are 8 or 9. Some of you are 3 or 4. But let's just call it $3,000 to $5,000. That 20-minute phone call, well worth it, right? So yeah. What else?
Well, we talked about this before. I do have a bit of a lead problem. It's just I just need to generate more leads, and then obviously work on getting them through the door. But I'm at that stage where I'm not able to spend tons of money on Facebook ads, so it's more about hitting the streets and
Yep. So if you're in the stage, so Keith just joined Project 500, so I feel comfortable using him as a guinea pig. So thank you for this. So Keith is producing what, about 15, 20 leads a month-ish? Right. Okay. So about 15 to 20 leads a month and booking, what was it, 6, 7 of them-ish? Okay. So percentage-wise, in order to hit a good growth target, we would like to see that closer to 30 and then ideally 2 a week, so get that up into the 8 to 10, right? So, but he's also at a revenue where cash flow does not allow for a ton of ad spend. So what do? In that case, the things that I would work on and what Keith is working on is certainly email your list, certainly text. Like all of us need the ability to text non-clients. The emails will build value, the emails will get replies, yes, but we also, when we are sending offers, need the ability to text. That used to be this kind of like optional thing, and I think nowadays that's just a flat out requirement. The other interesting thing I would say about text, and Josh actually found this out for those of you that don't know Josh, he's the business partner now and was the manager of my gym for 10 years, 11 years, and then bought it last year. He was only texting randomly we have a pretty decent text list of former clients, etc. He was only randomly texting. Like when I say randomly, I mean like once a quarter-ish, right? And when I came back in, I said, let's text them every month, right? Every month. And the reason for texting at that frequency, even though that's actually not that high of a frequency compared to other industries, is because now it's no longer like as random. So imagine if, let's picture you have that high school friend that you haven't talked to in 20 years, and they still have your phone number and they shoot you a text. Completely out of the blue. It would like, what the heck is this, right? Who is this? What is this about? And so that's an exaggerated example, but it's very similar to if you only are texting your contacts on a quarterly or random basis rather than every month. Like Hey Dudes, if you don't follow Hey Dudes, they text me, I would say twice a week, if not sometimes 3 times a week. And it's all promotion. It's not like, hey, here's how to wash your shoes or something. It's like, buy shoes 20% off. And like, I mean, I've bought 3 pairs of Hey Dudes, but I get 300 text messages. I don't hate them. I'm endorsing them right now. So don't think that the volume of your text is going to like disrupt your marketing. So that's a bit of a side tangent on texting, but don't be afraid to do it more.
What kind of frequency would you suggest on texting? Like weekly?
I think weekly to a non-client's probably a lot. I would, like going back to the monthly marketing plan that we do, right? You have your monthly marketing plan. I would pick that week that you're promoting that offer, and that's the week that they get the text, and then they see the next one the next month. Because most of those people are also getting your emails, which are a little bit more story-based, a little bit more value-based, etc. So, is there anything so far? Because I'm going to kind of cruise through 2 and 3, because I think we'll still go through them, but I think this phase is like, if you're in phase 2 and there's stuff here that you want to troubleshoot, we can do that right now, because oftentimes those are like the anchors that are still holding you down from growing past that. So you got lead tracking and follow-up, sales process, onboarding, scoreboard, and the other one is I would start to introduce the other 165, which is your text to current clients throughout the month. And I would say start to do that because like, once you get over 50, that tends to be a little bit harder to pay attention to. If you have 20 or 30 people, it's easy. But if you have over 50, it tends to get a little bit harder to pay attention to. So you just want to start to build out that, which is just a simple tracker of when the last time you texted a client. A win. Good catch. We call it the other 165. It's basically what you do for your clients outside the gym. It used to be much more comprehensive. Like that's where I had all of our nutrition stuff and all of the like touch points that we do, and it just became too complicated. And I've simplified it to say, how are we contacting our clients when they're not in the gym, right? 168 hours in a week, 3 hours that they train with you, 165. And basically the concept is more centered around accountability and recognition. So they're getting, for those that are not in, by the way, these docs are like in IBA. You can just search the names. The weekly at risk, so pulling anybody that didn't show that week, making sure they get a text, and then monthly, making sure everybody gets a text. And that text is in what we call a PPRO framework, personal positive reach out. It's basically a win to them, making sure every client gets a personal win from you every month. Anything else you want to troubleshoot that I went over? Model, pricing, hour-a-day marketing?
When you're raising rates on
yes.
I've got members who've been with me for 8 years and they're paying like $160 a month.
Yeah.
How much would you bump them up? If you're doing it twice a year, do you go $5 a month or 10, or is it? What do you feel the tolerance level is for most people?
So that would be price dependent. For that, the difference between 160 and 199 is nothing. Like the same person that pays 160 will pay 199 or 179 if that makes you feel better, to split the difference, right? As soon as you cross a threshold, then there's some psychological to that as well. Like I'm now paying over $200 a month, but broadly speaking, for a current client, especially if it hasn't been a couple of years, if it's been a couple of years since you've done a price increase or ever, 10%. Before I left, we did a 30% increase to current clients. We lost some people. But hey, we're making just as much. So Josh, I think in Kennebunk has 270-ish clients. He's doing just as much revenue as when I had it at 350 because he just kept bumping up his arm, right?